FanView is moving from Red Bean Mondays to Throwback Thursdays. Yeah, that's right. Join me, the People's Persons P, that boy Fred, and Man the Big Fan, as we bring to you the only urban-style sports talk show, FanView, where real fans talk about real sports every Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m., only on the New Orleans Talk Network.
Everybody claims that they want the best things out of life. But not everyone wanna go.
Welcome back to Talk What You Know. Thanks for being with us this morning live.
Like this particular fellow walks around all day.
418-255. You can visit us at NewOrleansTalkNetwork.com. Of course, we're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. Join us as we continue to talk about the economics. And why is it so important that we understand the economics of our community and the economics of government and business? It's interesting. I don't know. Today we're looking at economic policies and how they impact our community. Why is that so important? Because we have to make some choices. We can either become entrepreneurs, or we can continue people who are protesting. The big question for us today is, are we going to buy into the economics of the new president and the new agenda? Elections have consequences, and we have to determine where we're going to go. Special co-host this morning is Jules Diamond Washington. Been business for about 35 years, an entrepreneur community. He and I started out doing some business things around the same time.
Right,
it's just amazing.
Right.
And we are basically trying to look at that entrepreneur spirit. What is it going to take to be employers and not employees? What can we do? And we look at the big agenda. We can focus all our energies on the president and what he's doing. Not doing.
Right.
That man has an agenda.
Yes, he does.
And he was elected with an agenda. I think our task is to figure out that agenda and how we can make that economic agenda us in our community.
Exactly. What we have to do is we have to first learn his agenda. And like you and I were talking, it's important that we stop all the protesting and get in the line, in the game of what's going on. Because if we don't learn early what his agenda is, if we do learn it, it's too late for us. You've got to get there on the start of the agenda.
That's correct. You
can't get on the backside, because on the backside now you've lost the game. You know, it's almost like being in a race and the man is almost to the finish line and you just at the starting line trying to run.
And all politics is about economics.
Right.
A distribution of the goods and services and who's getting what. You know, like you started your business. There's a myth out there, Diamond, that people give you money to start your business. I'm quite sure you started your business with your own hard-earned money.
Yeah. Well,
and you're willing to take a risk for the reward.
Well, one of the things I would tell somebody, and I'm sure you'll know, that when you're starting a business, it seems like you have such a drive until it doesn't matter how much money you have. Your drive makes you, your passion for it makes you grow. But I always tell people, if you start a business and then you stop it and you start it, it's impossible. It's impossible because you can't find the money, can't find the resources. You don't remember, how did I start this business? So what you have to do, you have to get that fresh start. I say to all the people out there that have a mind for doing business, just start it. Don't worry about, I need to get money from this one, I need to go to get a loan. Just get it started. Get a building, jump in there and get it started. If you can get a building where you're not signed on to a 5-10 year lease, you're rent by rent, give it a try. Start it, because you never know.
What made you decide to want to be an entrepreneur instead of just going for the regular 9 to 5?
Well, when we were growing up, everybody that we knew, shops and different stores had businesses, and I guess from what you see, you figure this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Now the kids, they don't see that. Some of the things they see is, and most people say the same thing, they grow up, I want to start a beauty salon, I want to start a ballroom now, I want to start a barbershop. That's all I hear. Nobody, nobody like you starting a insurance company. There's got a lot of guys like I started a recording studio. A lot of guys doing the recording in their house, but that's just a new thing that has happened, and it really isn't business because of the fact they don't have LLCs or incorporations. They don't know anything about filing their taxes. They don't know nothing about paperwork. They don't know anything about a business plan. So there's a lot of training that has to go forward in order to do it. When I decided to do it, I guess my passion for it made me read books and do research on what is it that I want to do. And that's one of the things that happened, and I tell them all the time that the school don't give them this, and the church don't give them this.
Correct.
And also the people who are out in the street, the older guys who have businesses, they don't do this. They don't, somebody, you need to take somebody under your wing and teach them, hey man, this is what you need to do, and give them
mentorship.
Right,
Yeah.
give them a passion for it.
Now, you said something that I think is key, and I don't think people focus on that, most especially our generation that have come behind us. You said we saw entrepreneurship in the community.
Exactly.
That is something that community-based entrepreneurship is a lost art in certain communities.
Yeah, in many of them.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't realize in the 60s and 70s,
Oh yeah.
you still saw
A plethora. Of,
businesses and things throughout the community striving economically through some of the worst times. But those businesses were able to prevail.
Yeah.
From the 1980s up until now, those businesses have left the community.
Right.
Those kids are the last hired, the first fired.
Exactly.
There's nobody showing them, as you said, that you can be. I remember one of my coaches telling me, I'll never forget this. He used to encourage us to get a good education and get a good job. And I remember having a conversation with him about 15, 16 years ago, and he said, still, you know what, man, if I could do things all over again, I would encourage you guys to get a good education and go into business for yourself.
Right, right.
Because when you see, small business is the key to the whole economy.
Right.
Everybody
It's the
sees,
heartbeat.
Yeah, everybody sees these huge
Yeah.
corporations, but 5 to 20 people, you have more businesses
Right.
that are sustaining 5 to 20 people. Then you have these huge corporations.
Right.
We read about them all the time.
Right, because that's almost like a recycling bin of people. They keep them for a moment, and they're supposed to go up the ladder at a certain point in time. So instead of going up the ladder, they get rid of them and get a new influx of people for that small dollar. So instead of keeping the person, nobody's retiring anymore in any jobs, because that's where it is. You start off at this price, and a few years down the line, your salary raises up, and before you know it, you've got benefits, and now you've got a IRA package or whatever. Nobody's going to that. It's all part time, and okay, we've used you for a
So
minute.
there's real no advantage in today's economy working for a corporation, because your life expectancy with that corporation is 2 to 5 years.
Right. And also, I'll look at it this way. It's almost the same as buying a house and renting a house. If you start a business now, about ownership. Now that bleeds over to, I need to own me a house. Well, if you just a part-time person at a job, now your mentality is, okay, I just need to make enough money to pay my rent.
You and I oftentimes talk about the books and the tape Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yes.
And it's just so amazing when you get to look at that kind of data. It gives you a whole different
perspective.
One dad wanted to be a civil servant and retire.
Yeah.
The other dad said, I'm going to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Win, lose, or draw.
And I'm going to keep a flow of income coming in,
Right.
in spite of the whims of other people.
Exactly.
And I don't know if enough people grasp the significance of that Rich Dad Poor Dad concept, that going into business for yourself will empower you and empower the community. And we need to have more people. I mean, what's the difference between brothers and all these places that are opening up in the front of these communities? You're in every community.
Yeah.
You see the economy. And I want to talk specifically a little bit about our community. You have a bar and a church on every corner.
Yeah.
So that's the baseline economy of our community, a bar and a church.
Well, I think that and I hate to say it this way, I think that it's first of all, the church becomes an enslavement thing.
It can.
We keep them at bay. The ballroom is a hypnotic thing. We keep them drunk. We keep them stupid. So you've got to look at that. And just like you said with the brothers, see, we have to start training people all the positive stuff about becoming business people. It's the same thing as, there's fines and penalties and everything. If you don't do it right, you get fined, you get penalized. You buy a car, you drive fast, you're going to get a penalty. So, but you got to learn through, I say happenstance, through getting in there and getting your feet dirty, getting your hands dirty, getting your feet wet of how business works. And it's almost like showing somebody that you can do this. It's going back to saying, yes, you can do it. If you get in there and do it, you'll never learn. Unless you try. And that's what we have. We have a community of people who have laid down and decided, I'm afraid to try. Now, I'll say it this way. This is just my opinion. They let you have the ballrooms because they don't want to be in the midst of you. They know that the ballroom can be a dangerous situation. They don't want to cut your hair because they don't know how to cut your hair. And they don't. And in fact, I'm gonna tell you this way. Now they're infiltrating the churches because you've got white churches that have a lot of black members.
Yeah, you're getting multi.
Yeah.
People are attracted to the word, and they're attracted to the good news. And if I'm not getting it in one place,
I'll get it from another.
Get it somewhere else. But the concept of, and I don't think this could be dismissed. You said something that was key, and I don't think people realize in the 1960s and 70s, you still had commerce in our community.
Yes.
Because we saw it.
And we did.
And you say, you say, hey, look,
I can do this.
and then, but now it has become an abnormality.
Right.
If you stake out a business opportunity, then you're an aberration.
Right.
And when the aberration becomes a reality, you got a fundamental problem.
Yeah, you got a big problem.
And I don't think enough research, and oftentimes, here at Talk What You Know, and we said when we brought this program back, we're going to be about talking about solutions.
Yeah.
I mean, we hear about all the crime, the murder, the killing, but you get enough of dose of that.
Well, we've got to get people out of getting addicted to the mess. We're addicted to mess, so our lives become messy, and then it becomes messed up. So if we can get out of the mess, and I tell people all the time, we are in the mess age, the age of mess. MESSAGE, mess age. But what that does, it just stops us from getting the message.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
I like
if you stay in the mess, you don't grow up and you don't get the message. And the message is go into business for yourself.
Yeah, leave the mess.
Yeah.
And go to the message.
Go to the message.
Yeah.
And I think it was Malcolm X was talking about start your own business.
Yes.
Even Dr. King was telling people start your own business because now you become a vital part of this little thing called America. You become a feeder to America instead of just a slave still chopping down cotton in Popeyes and in McDonald's. That's all it is.
Well, the interesting thing I heard, and oftentimes people will say things. I heard the president say about Frederick Douglass, and I think he could identify with Frederick Douglass. I'm talking about President Trump because of Frederick Douglass' entrepreneur spirit, his outward spirit, his get it done spirit, and oftentimes today in contemporary times, we don't realize that Frederick Douglass was encouraging people.
Yes, he was.
To go into business for themselves.
And most of these people were businessmen.
Yeah, and the irony of it is that after the Civil War, all of the trades and the arts and all those things, we actually controlled all
We had them all, man. We had them all.
And so
we
what
had
happens is
them
that
all.
we were the experts.
Right.
All those inventions and all those things you see on Facebook, all those things came out of an entrepreneurial spirit, a need to create something, to mechanize, to create something that's going to make a change.
Well, I hate to say it like this, but what happened is we got selfish. We didn't want to pass it on.
Yeah.
So when you get selfish, you die with it. You die with that spirit
that's the
about
key.
and the knowledge of being an entrepreneur. So you have to take and pass it on, and you've got to teach somebody how to pass it on. Think about it this way. Think about ministry. If you're a preacher, a pastor, and you don't train someone else to be a preacher and a pastor, then the ministry dies with you.
That's correct.
You know, our bodies regenerate themselves. Before one cell dies, it creates another cell. It replaces itself. So we have to go back to the Bible, and I know a lot of people don't like to say when you're talking about something, man, why you got to throw the Bible in it? Because the Bible is a roadmap,
It is.
and all it says in there that you have to replenish the earth.
You have to.
So that means you have to replenish everything that you're doing.
That's correct.
You know, if you know how to fix a car, why you don't take your son and try and, boy, let me show you about a carburetor or a transmission. Let me show you how to take this engine out here and rebuild it. You know, and that might spark something in him that keeps something going.
And I remember coming to your recording studio, and you and your wife always had the kids there.
Yeah.
And seeing how you do things and how
Right.
to advance, and your business, the kids grew up in the business.
And I tell you
And
what,
they-
Doc, they can operate that stuff
Yes.
better than me. Teach me something.
We can take a short break. I know you got to run right
Yeah.
quick. And,
I apologize,
But,
man.
that's
Yeah.
all a part of life, man.
Yeah.
That's a part of being a Mr.
Yeah.
Mom. Man.
Ain't that something?
You got to take care of that, man.
Gotta take care of me.
You know, that's one of the reasons why God has allowed you to be an entrepreneur. There's sometimes we got to step in and
you
take
got to
care
step
of-
in and do what you got to do, man.
yeah.
And I really appreciate you inviting me, and please invite me back, man, because I've got a million things inside.
You and Business
that needs
Thursday,
to-
Doc. You, me, and Business Thursday.
Yeah.
We're going to take this short break, and we'll be right back for Talk What You Know at 504-341-8255. Join in on Facebook Live, NewOrleansTalkNetwork.com. Download our app. We go where you are. We'll be right back after this short commercial break.
But not everyone wanna go through the toils and strife. Like this particular.
Listen up. Your customers, our listeners, could be hearing about your business right now. Yeah, right now. Don't miss out on the opportunity to advertise with NewOrleansTalkNetwork.com. Call our business department today at 504-475-4793 to hear about our great rates. NewOrleansTalkNetwork.com. We provide the people, you provide the business. New morning show alert. New morning show alert. The Warren Ballantyne Show airs daily from 9 to 11 a.m. Central Time, bringing you the news you need to know. The Warren Ballantyne Show, now on the New Orleans Talk Network.
Here at Jones Insurance, your full-service agency, let us take care of all your insurance needs. We provide homeowners insurance, flood, rental, commercial, auto, and life insurance. Don't let the unexpected tragedy destroy your family's future. Here at Jones Insurance, 7603 West Bank Expressway, Monroe, Louisiana, 772. Contact Lois at 504-348-492.
Hi, this is Jill Samuels with Faith That Works. Join us every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time and 12 noon on New Orleans Talk Network as we change the lives of people with the Word of God by equipping the body of Christ to evangelize the world while reconciling people back to God. Let us continue to carry the water to the desert because Jesus is the living water.
Stop this hauling water to the sea.
This is Belinda Parker Brown, President of Louisiana United International. I am the host for A Force for Justice. You can listen to us every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Central, exposing the injustice in our criminal justice system. You can also call in at 504-341 8255 and tell us how you have become a victim in our criminal justice system.
On the New Orleans Talk Network, A Force for Justice with Belinda Parker Brown.
What's up, New Orleans? Listen, this your man Fred, host of your #1 sports talk show down here in New Orleans. Yeah, I said it. FanView, where real fans talk about real sports. Join me, Bank Ball Recite, your people's man B, and Madman the Big Fan as we talk about all the latest sports topics going down here around the country. Again, FanView, where real fans talk about real sports.
That number again is 504-366-4001. Or come visit us at 405 Gretna Boulevard, Suite 109, Gretna, Louisiana. Crown Properties Incorporated. For all your property management needs. You be the investor, we'll be the landlord. Crown Properties Incorporated.
Nobody gives you better conversation about your quality of life. Let everyone know you listen to the New Orleans Talk Network.
Back to Talk with your host, Pastor Donald Jones, and Jews had to step out to go and bring his son to the doctor, playing Mr. Mom this morning. That's a good thing. You know, every now and then we need to take a little time and go bring the kids to the doctor so we can see what's going on. You know, just like the mothers have to do it, we have to do it sometime too. So we want to thank him for being with us today, and also acknowledge the fact that he's taking care of his fatherly duties, taking his son to the doctor. What a blessing. Amen. We invite your calls at 504-341-8255. We're here live on Talk What You Know. The last segment we were talking about business and business opportunities, and of course, we want you to join us on NewOrleansTalkNetwork.com, on our YouTube channel, live on Facebook, Instagram. Download the app. We go where you go. If you're traveling, the thing about New Orleans Talk Network is all you have to do is download the app, come through the Bluetooth in your car. I mean, you don't ever get disconnected. It's just phenomenal. We want to thank God for making all this technology available, and we're going to use it because we're going to bring you news and information that you can use from a different perspective. There's a lot of good things going on. Oftentimes we just focus on the negative things that are going on. There are a lot of positive things, and we're going to talk about the positive things. We're going to expose the negative things that could cause you harm. But here at Talk What You Know, we provide the question, you provide the solution. Again, earlier we were talking about business, but I want to go to something else. And oftentimes we don't look at history. It never ceases to amaze me how most of our energies are focused on contemporary thoughts and contemporary times. As I was watching the Super Bowl on Sunday, President Trump said something that made a lot of people uncomfortable. And I'm going to paraphrase him, and he said, when Bill O'Reilly asked him a question about, is there a comparison between Putin and Russia and the United States? Why does he respect Putin so much? And President Trump said at that time that America is not above doing some things that are questionable, that America has done some things that the world would frown on. Now, everybody got up in arms when the president said that, and Bill O'Reilly said, well, you saying on the United States people or kill people or do this or do that. And he said, I'm just telling you that we're not exonerated when it comes to things happening in the world. I mean, and they just lit into the president over that statement. And this man is not a politically indoctrinated person. Everything that comes out of his mouth isn't going to be 100% correct. But there is an equivalency to what something, the fact that the is not complacent in Vietnam. And when Dr. King came out against the Vietnam War, I mean, they like ostracized him. Lyndon Johnson went berserk. And Dr. King was saying that we are morally wrong in that war and that we have done some things in that war that the world will frown on. Now, my question for you today, what is the difference between Donald Trump using the platform to say, yes, America's a great country, but there's some things, and he's talked about the Iraq War. And his comparison of the Iraq War is almost exactly how Dr. King characterized the Vietnam War. If we have that clip, I just want you to listen to it for a few minutes. And you tell me if there is substantial difference between what Dr. King is saying and what President Trump said on TV on Sunday. And the interesting thing about it is that Dr. King said that we've done some atrocities in this war. We have not only done atrocities to the Vietnamese people, we have done a tremendous amount of harm to Americans. We bring them back home, and they are shell-shocked, they are confused, they are ostracized, they are locked out. So I want to know if there's a moral comparison between one of the most significant leaders in the 1960s, and Dr. King had a platform that rivaled the President of the United States. When Dr. King spoke, people listened. So oftentimes when we're being critical, and we should be critical of our leaders, but sometimes we just do not compare and contrast. And we don't look at when someone says something that comports to our beliefs and perceptions, we're okay with it. But when they say something that isn't quite consistent with our beliefs and our perspectives, then we have a little problem. And I want to suggest to you that there is not a tremendous amount of difference. There is a moral equivalency in what President Trump said on Sunday in his interview with Bill O'Reilly before the Super Bowl, when he says that America is not complicit in some of the actions that we have done. And before we attempt to ostracize and criticize other people, we need to look inward. I found that fascinating. And I found the condemnation of President Trump striking, because he didn't say anything different than what Dr. King said when he decided to come out against the Vietnam War. And some people think that changed Dr. King's fortune. Now, we have that clip ready? Let's listen to that Martin Luther King clip on the Vietnam War.
On the battlefield of Vietnam, making the poor, white and Negro, bear the heaviest burdens both at the front and at home.
You know, wasn't the thing he had to do? I think it was not a political thing, because as it turned out, I think it was kind of like a death knell for him. But it was a very brave thing for him to do, because he went against all the people, you know, who we considered reasonable.
Others can do what they want to do. That's their business. Other civil rights leaders, for various reasons, refuse or can't take a stand or have to go along with the administration. That's their business. But I must say tonight that I know that justice is indivisible. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. The world now demands a maturity of America that we may not be able to achieve. It demands that we admit that we have been wrong from the beginning of our adventure in Vietnam, that we have been detrimental to the life of the Vietnamese people. The situation is one in which we must be ready to turn sharply from our present ways. The New Testament says repent. It is time for America to repent now, for the kingdom of God is at hand. As we counsel young men concerning military service, we must clarify for them our nation's role in Vietnam and challenge them with the alternative of conscientious objection. And I say this morning that it is my hope that every young man in this country who finds this war objectionable and abominable and unjust would file as a conscientious objection. Now let me tell you the truth about it. They must see Americans as strange liberators. Do you realize that the Vietnamese people proclaimed their own independence in 1945? This way of settling differences is not just sending men home from dark and bloody battlefields, physically handicapped and psychologically deranged, cannot be reconciled with wisdom, justice, and love. A nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death. Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you're too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power.
Now,
and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even
know. Now, the big question, Tarek, for we heard Dr. King eloquently say that the United States isn't 100% hands on dirty in that Vietnam War. My question to you is, what's substantially different from what Dr. King said about the Vietnam War and what President Trump said on Sunday, that although America is great, there are some things that we have done that other people look at a bit differently. So what's the outrage? One would think that if someone is saying that we're great, but we need to correct some things, that's the same thing that Dr. King said. Did God anoint the United States to be the policeman for the world? And should we be going into other people's countries, telling them how to run their country, enforcing our values and our opinions on them? And when they don't adhere to our values and our opinions, we use our military strength, our economic strength to crush them? That's the big question. What's the significant difference, I suggest to you, between what Dr. King said and what President Trump said on Sunday? Dr. King said it some 30 years ago. President Trump said it a few days ago. Is there a moral equivalency between those two statements? And if there is a moral equivalency between those two statements, should we step back, look at ourselves, and find some repentance in our own heart and some repentance in our actions? Caller on line 1, you're on the air.
Hey, Pastor Jones, can you hear me?
How you doing there? Yes, I can.
I really enjoyed listening to that clip right there with Martin Luther King saying those things he said 50 years ago, and until this day, is still, that saying still it exists. You know, it's real. America is guilty of a lot of wrongdoing to people in different countries, in this country, all over the world. America has committed some heinous acts to people. my personal opinion is what makes us better than Putin and Russia is that we sympathize with our heinous acts. Americans sympathize with those heinous acts, and they try to become better from it. Now, I can't speak on behalf of our government, but American people, they really sympathize with those acts, and they feel that we could take another approach. We don't have to really do a lot of harm to people to get what we want from people, and it just seems different with other countries. They do harm to people to get what they want, and they will continue to do harm to people to get what they want. I don't know what's up with our government. Do I agree with the statements Donald Trump made? Yes, I agree with the statements. Do I think they were appropriate for a president to make? No, I don't. It's obvious, it's well documented that our hands are not clean. But we don't need my opinion, we don't need our leader reminding everyone that America, and the way he did it, sometimes I hear you say all the time, it's not when I was a child, not what you do, it's not what you say, but it's how you say it. It's not what Donald Trump said, it's how he said it, and he used that statement to get himself out of the hole that he put himself in. And Dr. King made that statement to uplift the country. In my humble opinion, that's the difference. Okay. Thank you for your phone call, Pastor Jones.
Thank you. That's an excellent perspective. And some people, a lot of people feel that way, that Dr. King had the right to say it the way he did. He may have said it more eloquently than President Trump, but the net result is the same. Dr. King is saying that we had our hands dirty in Vietnam. President Trump is saying we had our hands dirty in Iraq. And there's a moral equivalency. Truth is truth. And as the caller said, maybe sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. But I wanted us to look at that, and this is why I want us to look at that, because sometimes we are very, very hard on people just when they, I'm not a Donald Trump fan, but some of the things that Donald Trump is laying out and some of the things he's talking about, those things needed to be talked about. We need to be talking about that over the last 30, 40 years that crime in these urban areas are just out of control. We need to talk about the fact that in these rural areas, drugs have ravaged those areas. And when the man say there's a lot of carnage here in the United States, he's telling the truth. We may not want to hear it. Oftentimes the truth hurts. But the truth will make you free. We invite your calls at 504-341-8255. Give us a text if you're uncomfortable calling. Hit us up. If you're looking at us on Facebook, let us know you like what we're talking about. If you're looking at us on Instagram, let us know you enjoy it. Let us know that the type of things that we're bringing to you, the alternative information, the other perspective, the way of looking at things a little bit different, make a difference to you. Caller, you're on the air, line 1.
Morning, Dr. Jones. How are you doing today?
It's a great day to be alive, my friend. Great day.
It is. It is a beautiful day to be alive. Thank you for taking my call this morning.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to express an opinion as I was listening to the talk show, and you were talking about how the president, Mr. Trump, made an observation about how America has to be more accountable for their actions. I agree with you on that. He is correcting what he's saying. However, it's not just about what you say, it's also about your actions. And unfortunately, Mr. Trump has displayed what I would like to call bipolar actions. He's very defensive against when someone corrects him or someone makes a judgment against him. He's quick to defend himself even when he's wrong. Even with the issue of him being president, he's looking to conduct an investigation on voter fraud. But at this point, it's irrelevant because you're the president. And you want to talk about how Americans need to be responsible for their actions, but you as the president have put a ban against countries which are allowing people of refuge to come here with no type of warning, no type of legislation on how to allow the different states to deal with this, but you're simply enforcing rules that you personally feel to be correct. And when the other types of judicial systems try to take place and correct that, you criticize, mock, and judge them, and want to tear down those forms of institutions as well. So when he says it, it's a difference because Dr. King stood for something, and he stood behind what it was that he spoke about, and he was an active part of the civil rights movement, and it wasn't just about his judgment, it was about what was best for the people. Mr. Trump is doing what's best for him and his administration, and it's not what's best for the people. I believe that's the difference in what he's saying, because his actions don't follow through with it.
No, I understand. But I'm quite sure, and most people are not aware, that President Roosevelt, Eisenhower, President Johnson all had bans on who could come in the United States when the United States was at war with other countries. And the list that President Trump is using is the exact list that President Obama and the Congress identified, because in those countries the governments have melted down so much, they're not sure that those people can be vetted properly. Now, I disagree with the president on attacking the independent judicial branch, because that's the way the founding fathers set this country up, a check and balance. You can check the president, you can check the Congress, and the Congress can check the courts. So we have a system that has worked. So I disagree with him in that aspect, but I can understand and appreciate putting the ban on those 7 countries where you have no surefire way of vetting the people who are getting visas and the people who are traveling through those countries, because those governments have basically broken down. The situation, Dr. King spoke out against the Vietnam War, and he spoke out about the atrocities of the Vietnam War and our hand in those atrocities. And Donald Trump spoke out.
And I understand your position, Pastor Jones, and I'm not saying that that particular action was not correct. However, you have families that have been waiting on their family members to come, and these people have had an 18-month process to receive their visas to get into the United States. And when they get here, they're 6 feet away from their family members and can't touch them. And they're being sent back to countries that are hostile toward them and in civil war. If these people have had an 18-month vetting process in which to receive a visa, these people should still be allowed. Now, if you want to monitor them while they're in the country, that's a different aspect. But I can see putting a ban on releasing any new visas. But why such a drastic measure just a few days in office? And you didn't even give the people the opportunity to on how to properly put this executive order in place. That was unfair.
Well,
I think most Americans feel it was uncalled for.
The courts agree with you, and 57% of most Americans agree with you. So you got a valid point. Caller, I want to thank you for calling. As always, it's good to hear from our listeners.
Thank you for talking with me this morning. Y'all be blessed.
Have a great day. Again, we invite your calls at 504-341-8255 on Talk What You Know. I tell you what, people understand. It's amazing. I'm looking at the tweets. I'm looking at the comments. We oftentimes make a faulty assumption that people don't understand, but they really, really, really understand. And we're just trying to give, do you think in your heart of hearts that we should give the president the benefit of the doubt? Elections have consequences. The man won fair and square. He has a right to implement his agenda. He has a right to bring people in who are going to help him administrate his agenda. The question for us, as we were talking about business this morning, should we buy into the Trump agenda? And should we try to figure out how we can make it economically work for ourselves and our community? Or should we continue to do like the Democrats are doing, obstruct, obstruct, obstruct? The big question for you is how does that obstruction help you and your family? How does that obstruction help you and your family? Or should we buy into the Trump economic agenda, which is heresy to some people, but we also have to talk about it. Should we buy into the Trump agenda and see how we can make that agenda work for our families and our community. How do you feel about that? 504-341-8255. Should the president be given the benefit of the doubt? Why isn't this president being given a honeymoon? Why isn't he being given time to implement the agenda that the American people chose him to implement? That's the question for you, and that's the question for me. At 504-341-8255. And the reason why I brought up that those Dr. King comments on the Vietnam War, because Dr. King and Donald Trump said practically the same thing. Dr. King may be a more eloquent speaker, but they said the same thing, that America is not complicit in our actions worldwide. And you heard Dr. King say, did God appoint the United States to be the police for the world? And our president is saying the same thing, that the United States shouldn't be the police for the world, and that we shouldn't be going into other people's countries telling them how to run their countries, when we should be looking internally, asking ourselves, how can we make our country a better place for the people who live here? We invite your calls at 504-341-8255. Went a little long today, went a little over, but we're going to take this short commercial break, and then we're going to come back and wrap up the last 5 minutes. Again, you're watching Talk What You Know with Pastor Donald R. Jones and Jules Diamond, who was here with us this morning. We had to go and play Mr. Mom, bringing the son to the doctors. So we're going to take this short commercial break, and we'll be right back and wrap up the show.
I don't wanna write this down, I wanna tell you how I feel right now. I don't wanna take no time to write this down, I wanna tell you how I feel right now.
Listen. Now. With NewOrleans.com. Call our business department today at 504-475-4793 to hear about our great rates. NewOrleansTalkNetwork.com. We provide the people, you provide the business. New morning show alert. New morning show alert. The Warren Ballantyne Show airs daily from 9 to 11 a.m. Central Time, bringing you the news you need to know. The Warren Ballantyne Show, now on the New Orleans Talk Network.
Here at Jones Insurance, your full-service agency, let us take care of all your insurance needs. We provide homeowners insurance, flood, rental, commercial, auto, and life insurance. Don't let the unexpected tragedy destroy your family's future. Here at Jones Insurance, 7603 West Bank Expressway, Monroe, Louisiana, 772. Contact Lois at 504-348-1492.
Hi, this is Jill Samuels with Faith That Works. Join us every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time and 12 noon on New Orleans Talk Network as we change the lives of people with the Word of God by equipping the body of Christ to evangelize the world while reconciling people back to God. Let us continue to carry the water to the desert because Jesus is the living water.
Stop this hauling water to the sea.
This is Belinda Parker Brown, President of Louisiana United International. I am the host for A Force for Justice. You can listen to us every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Central, exposing the injustice in our criminal justice system. You can also call in at 504-341 8255 and tell us how you have become a victim in our criminal justice system.
On the New Orleans Talk Network, A Force for Justice with Belinda Parker Brown.
What's up, New Orleans? Listen, this your man Fred, host of your #1 sports talk show down here in New Orleans. Yeah, I said it. FanView, where real fans talk about real sports. Join me, Bank Boy Recite, your people's man B, and Madman the Big Fan as we talk about all the latest sports topics going down here around the country. Again, FanView, where real fans talk about real sports.
11 to 12 noon. Tune into a church with no walls.
Don't you dare miss it.
Nobody gives you better conversation about your quality of life.
Let everyone know you listen to
The New Orleans Talk Network.
Welcome back to Talk What You Know with your host, Pastor Don Laura Jones. We're here live in New Orleans Talk Network studios, and we encourage you to join us on NewOrleansTalkNetwork.com. Download the New Orleans Talk Network app. You know what's so unique about that app? They go where you go. I was in Jackson, Mississippi the other day, and I could hear the show that comes on Mondays, The Church Without Walls. I mean, they discuss some interesting topics. So that app allows you to go anywhere you go, and you're listening to it through your car speakers in your car, even better than traditional radio. We invite you to go on the Facebook Live page, New Orleans Talk Network, on Instagram and Twitter. Thank God for giving us access to all these platforms. I mean, it's just amazing what God has done, that now you have no reason not to have good information and good news, which allows you to make sound decisions. You know, it's the truth that will make you free. We're sort of talking about the president and some of the things that are going on with him. And the first half of the hour, we talked about entrepreneur and business. And Diamond talked about the fact, and Diamond and I, you know, now we're mid-50s, he talked about the fact that when we were kids, we saw businesses in our communities. In the 60s and 70s and early 80s, we saw businesses in our communities. And he talked about the fact that he wanted to go into business. And I wanted to go into business. And so one of the things we got to start teaching, again, is the entrepreneurship component. We understand how it works. Now, this may rub some people the wrong way, but sometimes you got to. In our community, we have the church, which is a business in some sense as it relates to the operation of the church, and the bars. So we know how businesses work. It's just a question of what businesses we're choosing to go in. And we have to encourage entrepreneurship. Why is that so important? We have to encourage entrepreneurship so our kids will stop being the last hired and the first fired. We have to encourage entrepreneurship because it allows you to control the resources of your community. We have to control entrepreneurship because it says to the next generation, you can also. So we had a great first half. The second half, we talked about the fact that the president and Dr. King said the same thing. They both said that the United States is not complicit in the things that we've done in the world. So before we start criticizing and condemning other people and telling other people how they should live and taking a high moral ground, we should look at some of the things that we are doing, both abroad and at home. And President Trump may not use the correct words all the time. I don't, and you don't. He may not be able to say things as eloquent as a Dr. King, but some of the things he's talking about, the carnage in our urban areas, those things are real. Some of the things he's talking about, the drugs in our urban areas, those things are real. And should we embrace the Trump agenda and try to figure out how that agenda can work for our community? Or should we continue to do be obstructionists like the Democrats are doing? And will that obstruction benefit our community? We've had a great time with you today, all of the texts and the emails, and I want to thank you for watching and following us on NewOrleansTalkNetwork.com, following the app, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We want to thank God for making all these platforms possible. We'll see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. for another live segment of Talk What You Know. Remember this. If it glorifies God and it makes you better, do it. If it don't, avoid it. May the peace of God be with you. See you tomorrow for Talk What You Know.
Everybody claims that they want the best things out of life. But not everyone wanna go through the toils and strife. Like this particular fella walks around all day long singing, shine.
Nobody gives you better conversation about your quality of life.